All roads will eventually lead you here, to episode 130 of Shiren the Wanderer. Hello, fellow meat masters, it's me, Doofy Doo. It's been a while, but I'm back for my monthly installment of Shiren the Wanderer. I have not played this cart in like 2 years, but I seem to have pretty good meat here. Some Hell Reaper, that's good. Whoa, 2 un-ID'd staffs? I'm gonna take those out. In Bufu's cave? That's weird. Alright, let me go try to ID these staffs. Huh. Curse. Oh. Wow. This is a bad beginning. I think I need to use the Bufu staff on this Hell Reaper. At least get some double movement meat. Alright. Let's see what this is. Alright, knock back. Whew. I have 2 cleavers, so this isn't insanely risky, although it is slightly risky. This is a knockback. There's a fluffy bunny behind her, healing her from behind. Doing it bunny style. I'm sorry again. It's been a while. But I was sick. You might be able to hear it in my voice. I've been sick for a little bit. But today is the day that Shiren 5 Plus is officially released in the US, so that's pretty cool. Perhaps you already have it in your hand. I saw that some people are already doing Let's Plays or walkthroughs of it. I am not going to do that. I'm just going to continue my slow progress through this game. But yeah, what did they name it? They named it Shiren the Wanderer Tower of Fortune. The Tower of Fortune and the Dice of Fate, I believe. Longest title ever. So, we continue the pattern of getting... Wow, this guy, alright. Finally went down. We're continuing the pattern of getting only the odd entries in the Shiren series. So we got 1, 3, and 5. Although we did get the best version of 5. I decided to pre-order... I think I'll just lure him over here. Wow. As long as he doesn't... and he did it again. 2 dangerous spells. I'm gonna stay close to the stairs here just in case I have to run. Alright. I didn't really explore all of this floor, so I'm gonna have to go back. Whoa. Alright. This is a little dangerous. I think... Oh, switching staff. I was hoping that would be something more useful. Guess I could name this switching staff. Maybe... Jar of Hiding? I guess I don't want to waste all my Bufu charges. It'll open up some more room in my inventory. I'll use this Jar of Hiding. Give me some time to heal a little bit. Hopefully he'll run far, far away. And I won't run into him immediately. Let's see who this is. Oh, I think this is the same one. I hope this is the same one. If it isn't the same one and the other one comes up behind me, yeah, that had to be the same one because I didn't really do that much damage. Alright, let me get a little HP here and I'll go finish exploring this floor. In case you have forgotten, after I did the first episode of this run, I accidentally started playing my other cart. So I'm continuing a run that I started literally like 2 years ago. It has to be at least 2 years. I didn't look and see exactly the length of time, but it's weird. I mean, time is completely scrambled. I realized before I started playing this, I was thinking like, how am I going to resolve this? Because there are many, many different ways you can arrive at this episode. I guess I'm just going to start with the most logical or smallest scale, smallest perspective, I guess, pathway to this episode, and then I'll try to cover all the other ones. So the first way is if you're just watching this on a playlist, so you're actually watching this specific run. You know, you're watching it the way it's supposed to be watched. So you just watched the run prior to this one, I believe. It was episode 78. At the end of that episode, I had just seen a Nintendo Entertainment System for the first time in M82 form. So it was, whoa, alright. This is good because I've got double speed, so I can kill these guys no problem. And the game I had seen was Metroid, and that went on to become my favorite game. I think Metroid for the NES is my favorite game. If you had to like pin me down and be like, what's your favorite game of all time? It's just the combination of nostalgia and the fact that was just a really good game. And if you've been watching other episodes in this talk through, you've already heard about some of my favorite Nintendo games, so I'm not going to rehash that. I'll try not to rehash that too much, but I do want to continue from that point for the people who are watching just this run. So I guess I'll talk about why I like the Nintendo Entertainment System so much, and I'll go through a few systems that I did enjoy, and it was kind of an alternating process of me really thinking a system was cool, and then being like, it's okay, you know, I'm excited about it, but it's not the best thing ever. In previous episodes, I told you that my favorite thing about Shiren the Wanderer, about this game and all the Shiren games, is the variety of verbs. There's so many different things you can do to the NPCs and the monsters, and they're all significant. They have a significant gameplay impact. You know, they're distinct and significant and different. There are many, many different things you can do to the enemies in Shiren the Wanderer. Although I'm just doing a single thing right now, because that's all I can do. Alright, perfect timing. Go back and gather up all this delicious loot. Hopefully, I think I saw a couple staffs there, so I can replenish my Buku staff supply. Now that I feel a little bit more relaxed, I can almost go through this beginning portion of Buku's cave without really thinking too much about it. I am going to make one major change this run compared to the previous run. And that one change, which will hopefully be transparent, you might not even notice because I might not do it in an obvious way. But that is going to guarantee that I make it all the way this run. Because this is going to be the run where I make it to floor 99. Alright? That mistake last run, I don't know, perhaps you haven't... Yeah, no matter how you got here, you probably saw the last run. Where I died in the monster house because I was like overconfident in my ability to hypnotize everyone. Oh, I think my major mistake was that I didn't use the false idol meat. When I could have used it to save myself, I didn't. I tried to run away, and there was another dragon in the room. That was terrible. I will not make a stupid mistake like that. And in addition to that, I'm going to use one trick that's not super sneaky, but it's a trick that I usually don't take the time to do. I'll tell you about it when I do it, or maybe slightly after that time. But that is going to make this run much, much easier. Other than that one additional trick, I'm just going to do the same strategy. I'm going to get as many Bufu staffs as possible. I'm going to farm a ton of Death Angel meat. I'm going to use the Death Angel meats to make it to, make it through the dangerous middle part of the dungeon. And then I'm going to get as many Bufu staffs as I can again. And I'm going to farm Death Master meat. And then I'm going to use that to make it all the way through, hopefully. And at some point, I'm going to try to farm those false idol meats, because I realized last run that those are incredibly, incredibly powerful. So if I can get some of those, I could potentially just false idol my way through the entire... Oh, tiny D-pad strikes again. That sounds like an insult from somebody like in middle school. Give me your lunch money, you tiny D-pad. Really though, for some reason, I guess because they're made for kids, all the portable Nintendo systems, the DS and 3DS, the D-pad, even on the XL, if you're making an XL system, make the D-pad bigger. And I know all the cool kids use the analog sticks nowadays, but I still like the D-pad. I'm an old-fashioned dude. And I don't even have huge hands, I just have normal-sized hands. I can't even imagine what it's like for, like, Shaquille O'Neal to try to play a 3DS. I mean, it probably just vanishes in his palm. He can probably afford to buy a custom 3DS though, so I don't feel too bad for him. Alright. It's good to know. This is a stainless, what's the real name? Rustless armband. So, at least I ID'd that. I do want to ID a sleepless armband at some point before I hit the middle part of this dungeon. So I have plenty of time to do that. I have like 25 floors left for Sleep Riders to show up. I used to work with a guy who was 6'10", over 500 pounds, and his proportions were not like those of a tall, thin guy. I mean, over 500 pounds. He was just built like a slightly heavy, normal dude. So the funniest thing about that guy is when you're far away from him, because he's proportioned like a normal human being, he doesn't even look that tall. So you're like, it's kind of like walking towards one of the Shadow of Colossi. From far away, you're like, oh yeah, he looks like a pretty big guy. And then you're walking towards it and you're like, wait, I'm still walking towards this guy. Like, when am I actually going to reach him? He's getting larger and larger and larger. And finally, you walk up to him and you realize your eye level is like his navel. And your entire forearm vanishes in his fist when he shakes your hand. And then you have to like climb up the moss on his back and stab him in the forehead. Wait, no. I'm getting confused. No, he was a super nice guy, but it was a little surreal to work with him. He had to have a custom chair, actually, in the office. It was like almost a $2,000 chair because the other chairs just could not support him. So I feel for those dudes. I mean, there are advantages and disadvantages. And he was very conscious of the fact that very large human beings, generally their lifespan is not as long. So he wanted to start his family soon, and he was a very responsible, intelligent, cool human being. And I don't mean to reduce him to only his height and his size, because I'm sure that's what everyone does, and there's a lot of other cool things about him. But it is hilarious the first time you meet him. Like, are we there yet? I've been walking towards this guy for like 5 minutes, and he's still getting larger. What is going on? Like an optical illusion. Alright, what was I actually talking about? Oh, I was talking about seeing the Nintendo Entertainment System for the first time and falling in love with Metroid. I said before that Metroid was the first game, or one of the first games that I felt was very serious in tone. It made you, the music and the atmosphere was very isolating. And that was very comforting to me as a child. I was not comfortable interacting with other kids. So the idea of being alone in like a giant alien playground was sort of a dream come true. And I'm not autistic, although I'm sure my father and I are on the spectrum. But it's a little different. It's always been a little different for me to interact with other people. I have to consciously figure out what their emotions are and what they want in a conversation. You might have noticed I use 4 categories. When I talk about aspects of people, I'm always bringing back these 4 categories of people: achievers, killers, explorers, socializers. And some people might object and say, well, Doofy, actually I read there are 16 different personalities. If you follow the, I think it's the Myers-Briggs system of personality types. And I think those are useful types for typing yourself. And maybe with a long time of study, you could kind of get a handle on what type another person was. But that's way too complicated for me. I said before that it used to be if I was in a room with more than 3 people, I would just leave because the data was overwhelming. I can handle it now a little bit better, but I still feel a little bit like that because I am consciously trying to figure out the motivations of the people in the conversation. Like I have to sort of deduce it from their facial expressions and what they're saying, and I have to think about it. A lot of things that happen automatically for people who are more, I guess, emotionally intelligent, I guess is the way you say it. It takes a lot of brain power for me to actually figure it out. Like, what does this person want? What are their emotional state right now? What is their interaction and relationship with this other person in the conversation? That's why I generally prefer one-on-one conversations. That's one of the reasons why I don't show the number of subscribers on my channel. It's not that I'm ashamed or that I'm humble or even that I don't particularly care. I do care. But if I look there and I see that there's like 90 or something. I know there's really only like a dozen people, but the idea of talking to a dozen people is like paralyzing to me. I would much rather think that I am just talking to one person, or even just myself, which technically is what is actually happening, than talk to several people. Because when there are 3 people in the conversation, suddenly it's tripling my workload. There's like the relationship of me to each of the other 2, and then there's their relationship. So there's like 3 things going on, where there used to be just one on a one-on-one conversation. Alright. I'm thinking, should I let this chainhead level up? What if it hypnotizes me, what can I really do? I can't really do anything. I'm just gonna let it destroy it, that's fine. And then I've got double speed, I'll be able to kill the chainhead, no problem. Get a little extra experience. Okay, follow me inside, sir. Hopefully I don't get trapped here. Alright, this is gonna be fine. No one show up. Sweet. Alright. Now I can handle 4 people. 4 people is like 6 different relationships. It's very exhausting, but I can do it. Any more than 4 people though, I can't do it. I have to go into what I call camera mode. So, you know those people in a party that are just like hanging out on the balcony or the deck and just waiting for one person to come over so they can talk to them? Or they're kind of like off in a corner talking to one other person? That's me, because I love one-on-one interactions with other people. But my brain is unable to handle large groups of people because I'm trying to... I think a lot of other people arrange people in a kind of a hierarchy. We're like, this is the most important person right now. I want to have a relationship with this person. All my attention is on them. And is it a attention deficit? No, it's not. I can focus on things, sort of, despite evidence to the contrary. It's just, it's too much data. So, one-on-one is ideal, but I can do 3 or 4 if needed. So why did I go off on that tangent? Because Metroid, you're just kind of by yourself interacting with the world. And when I was a kid, even a one-on-one conversation was overwhelming for me. Just like the idea of taking into account the infinite... Oh. Alright, an Ulster tank. Huh. I think I'm gonna let it kill the Mistonos. Yeah, here we go. And then I'm gonna Bufu it. Please, I must find a Bufu that has charges on this one. Definitely. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so... Oh, sweet. Thank goodness. Oh, that would have been so embarrassing. Can you find cursed Bufu staffs here? I don't know. But if that didn't work, and I died on floor 21 after making it to 60... Oh, alright. Crisis averted. Huh. Okay, this is very valuable meat, so I should get this. So, I was overwhelmed talking to other people because there are so many different possibilities of things they could talk about. It was too much for me, my tiny little brain, back when I was in elementary school and middle school later on. So, that idea of having a huge world, and the NES worlds were much larger than any of the previous video game worlds. So you had a big world to explore, screen after screen after screen. You could go wherever you wanted. So my favorite 2 games were Metroid and The Legend of Zelda. And it is cool that The Legend of Zelda is kind of going back to its roots in Breath of the Wild, but I'll probably talk about that more later. So I love the NES. And then later on, in middle school, when I got more comfortable talking to people, the only thing I could talk to them about was video games. So it gave me a path to sort of engage in conversation, and it made things more limited. I didn't have to worry about all the other crazy stuff going on. I could just be like, alright, I'm going to talk to another person, but it's going to be about video games because I know a lot about Nintendo games. And, that's a comfortable way for me to interact. So all of my interaction in middle school was with my 2 best friends, and we were always talking about video games for the most part. Sometimes we'd talk about other people at school, or what else did we like? We liked Star Trek: The Next Generation. I like the original series, but my friends preferred Next Generation. Or what were the other cool shows on? MacGyver, The A-Team. But I don't want to get off on another tangent. So anyway, I love the NES. The NES is my favorite system of all time because it hit me at that point in my life when I really needed that feeling of exploration and being by myself and just being relaxed and being in control of things and all the reasons I talked about people liking video games, except for social reasons, although partially for that too. The NES sort of filled all of those needs. And then we got to the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo hit right when I started high school, was that it? Let me think. Yeah, it was right when I started high school. The Super Nintendo hit. Also, the 8th grade a little bit, because I remember my friend had a Genesis, so. And the Super Nintendo was a lot better graphically, and it did offer a few new verbs. I really liked F-Zero, because that was a different style game than I was used to. But I was not crazy about the Super Nintendo versions of the games I had played on the NES. And I think it's because it didn't really offer me more. It was kind of this is what you used to have, but now there's more. And that's a common pattern in video games. It's sort of iterative and evolutionary rather than being revolutionary like a totally new thing. So Mode 7 was a totally new thing. Super FX chip and Star Fox, I played the heck out of the original Star Fox. That was a new thing. But Super Metroid, Final Fantasy II I loved because that was the first time I had played sort of a game with that level of music and that level of narrative. Really, the previous games didn't have that level of sort of character development and story. But Final Fantasy III, Super Metroid, I liked them. I thought they were fun. But they didn't really blow me away the way they did for a lot of other people. So, I love the NES. The Super Nintendo I liked, but I wasn't crazy about. And the Genesis too. I did like the multi-tap. So we played Bomberman on the Super Nintendo. We played Secret of Mana, 3 people. I thought that was cool, being able to play like a Zelda-ish game with 3 people simultaneously. And then Street Fighter 2 came out. And that was another way for me to comfortably interact with other people. Alright, I need a curse trap here. I'm going to go ahead and curse my armor ward, because a cursed armor ward plus 2 is quite a bit better than an Iron Shield minus 1. And of course it's not going to lower my hunger. So this is going to take a while, but go ahead and set everything down. Hopefully the tank doesn't wander in and destroy like 9 of my jars with one shot. I laugh, but I'm going to cry if that happens. Alright. Also, it's a little dangerous to put all your stuff down, obviously, if someone comes in, because you don't have anything left to deal with it. I can just walk over a jar, though. Grab a Doofy if I need to. Hey, here we go. Speak of the devil. Let's see here. I think I can, yep. Alright, if he had hypnotized me and I threw one of my jars up in that top left corner, then there wouldn't have been much space for any of the items to land, maybe like 1 space, so I would have lost a ton of stuff. So, yeah, Street Fighter 2 and fighting games in general at the arcade were another controlled way for me to interact with other people. I didn't have to think about their reactions and what they were thinking and what their emotional state was and what they wanted. It wasn't overwhelming. It's like, alright, this is a game we're playing, we both have a goal, it's very simple. But I am interacting with another human being in a way. So again, not autistic, but you know, in that general vein, it's the reason why, one of the many reasons why I got into fighting games. Another reason is that I said I wasn't very competitive, and obviously I wasn't super social. I'm still not very social. When you suppress one aspect of your personality, and remember, everyone has all 4 of these inside them. It's not like I'm 100% explorer all the time. No. There is a winner inside me that enjoys winning. And let me go ahead and trip this. I'm not gonna waste time stepping on and off. Alright, yay! So much work for just a little bit more protection, but you know, could come in handy. Pick up everything again before a horrible tank wanders in here. Alright, now I feel better. I feel more protected. So, when you suppress one of those aspects of your personality, then it comes bubbling out in other ways. So I wasn't a competitive person, but there's a part of me that is competitive, and it has to come out somewhere, and it came out in fighting games. So I do like winning in fighting games. It's not like I don't try to win. And that's sort of the killer aspect in me coming out. I do like achieving. I like a sense of progression and a narrative and closure. So I do collect things sometimes, and that's the achiever in me. I don't have a huge collection of games, but, you know, I collect whenever. The thing I do is if I have a series that I like, I'll sort of try to get everything I can about that particular series, or a show that I like. I guess everyone does that. It's not very unique. But there are some people who try to get everything, you know? They're like, oh, I'm going to collect Nintendo games. I'm going to get every Nintendo game ever made, or I'm going to get every fighting game ever made. No, I'm not that extreme. If there's a certain, like, oh, I know a good example. I like the show Bubblegum Crisis. Although I did watch it again, it does not hold up as well as I thought it did. Like, a modern anime fan watching Bubblegum Crisis now, it's not very good. I mean, there's a couple episodes, like Mad Machine is still decent, but a lot of it, I can't believe. I went back and watched it. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so awesome because they just released. They didn't just release. A couple years ago, they released a sort of a fan-funded Blu-ray re-release of the original Bubblegum Crisis, and I got a copy, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be the best ever. Nah, it's kind of cheesy and corny. So, unfortunately, that show does not hold up as well as I wished it did. But I do like that show. So, I have like action figures for all 4 lightsabers. I have the soundtrack for all the episodes. I have all the releases of the episodes. I have all the art books. I have the books, the guidebooks for the RPG, not video game RPG, but like pen and paper RPG for Bubblegum Crisis. I have all the guidebooks, although I've never played that game. So I kind of get all of the source material. Like if I really like a game, I like Shiren the Wanderer, I have all the Japanese guidebooks for the game and art books, so that's sort of the achiever in me. Like, oh, I must get everything related to this. You know, I have to collect everything. And those are the 2 aspects of my personality that are the weakest, I would say. Well, that's not true. Another weak one is socializing. I suppose this talk-through is a little bit of my socializer aspect bubbling out, because I am interacting with people in a way, in a very controlled, limited way. And of course going out on dates, which I haven't done for a while, but I should probably do that. So one-on-one interaction with a clear goal and getting to know somebody that I can handle. So if you suppress the aspects of your personality that you don't identify with very strongly, eventually they are going to come bubbling out. And that is the reason why I loved fighting games, I think. Fighting games also had a lot of world building, at least when it came to King of Fighters on the Neo Geo. Ugh. And King of Fighters, classic King of Fighters from the late 90s, I should say, are my favorite fighting games. Because you really get a sense that these are sort of real people inhabiting an actual world, and they all have relationships to each other. So that kind of social aspect, I guess, or narrative aspect of King of Fighters was very interesting to me. And in addition to the many infinite number of possibilities of teams. But you could get that with a Versus series game too, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or 3. And those games appeal to me, but not in the same way. They certainly inhabit a universe and there's a lot of world building, but it's not very real. It doesn't feel very real to me. When I was a teenager, the world of King of Fighters felt extremely real. Like, I cared a lot about those characters and that fictional universe that they lived in. When it came to gameplay, I acknowledged that Capcom made the best fighters. Definitely the Street Fighter 3 series. As far as pure gameplay and animation quality is kind of the pinnacle of fighting games in my opinion. Now there's a lot of anime fighters that are loosely based on the systems from Marvel vs. Capcom and Guilty Gear, but I don't know, they don't really grab my attention. I'm not into anime anymore, I'm sure there are a lot of them that are very good and very high quality and have great gameplay, but I just haven't kept up with it. I don't play those games much anymore. But when I was in high school and the Super Nintendo was out, by the end of the Super Nintendo generation, I was pretty much only playing fighting games for the most part, either at the arcade or on my Super Nintendo, and I imported a bunch of games. I broke off those little tabs on my Super Nintendo, I think I said in a previous episode, and I imported a bunch of anime fighters, Ranma 1/2 and Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z. I think I even imported a Sailor Moon fighting game because people told me it was a good game, and I didn't know anything about Sailor Moon. I was just like, all right, fighting game with a bunch of girls, I'll try it, and it turned out to be kind of horrible. But yeah, I just played fighting games, and that was where I was at in my gaming life at the end of high school when I was applying to college. And now we are intersecting another pathway to this episode, which is, if you were watching all of the Deep Kitchen God attempts, I had just reached the point where I was about to tell you how I got into college. So if you came here from episode 117, which was the end of the last attempt in Boopa's Cave, then we're finally to the point where you can understand what's going on. So there was a super hot Taiwanese girl in my high school that I had a huge crush on. And at this point, remember, I can interact with people one-on-one pretty well. So we had these long phone conversations. This is back in the day before the internet, before cell phones, so on the landline. It was such a weird time compared to now. And it wasn't that long ago. A typical day was, I go to school, after school I go to track practice. After track practice I come home, someone calls me on the phone on the landline and says, hey, we're all getting together, we're going to play basketball at this park or one of our friends' houses. And all my friends were more wealthy than me. So I didn't have a car, but they had a car, so I had to get a ride. And we'd all like play basketball. Sometimes some kids from other schools would come and we'd play a pickup game. We'd get really hot. We'd all go to 7-Eleven, get some drinks, hang out in front of 7-Eleven, and then maybe cool off in the pool at my friend's house, and that would be the end of the day, and we'd just be exhausted. But there was no... AOL was out, you know, but it was so slow, and only super duper nerds used the internet. You had to be like a hardcore nerd to really like spend a long time on the internet back then. Even a lot of things were nerdy. Anime was super nerdy. Like, you had to be hardcore nerd to actually watch Japanese animation. Like then, nowadays it's just like everybody watches it. What other things? There are so many things, even video games in general. Like there's a large percentage of the population that didn't even play video games, like kids. Again, now it's completely different, but it's been a lot of changes. Not for the worse, not for the better, just different. So this hot, smart, iconoclast Taiwanese girl used to call me on the phone, and I guess nowadays you couldn't even say I was in the friend zone though, because I was constantly asking her out. Like, she knew I was interested. It wasn't like one of these like, oh, I'm attracted to her, but I'm afraid if I tell her she won't be my friend anymore. No, I was like, I know you want me to be just your friend, but guess what? I want more than this, and I'm going to tell you every time we talk. So I was very straightforward. Possibly too straightforward. But anyway, she was resisting my advances. And I had this theory that she was going to go to Berkeley because her brother went to Berkeley. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Berkeley. I just found out that I did not get accepted to MIT, which was just devastating to me because I had always dreamed of studying to become an engineer and going to MIT where all the smart people went. And I got the rejection letter and I was just pissed off. I disconnected my phone just so no one would call me, and I was just sulking. And to cheer myself up, I went on this party that all the seniors in high school, it's not even a party, it was like a vacation, I suppose, that we did in the spring. I guess it was spring break. Yeah, it must have been spring break. We went to Massanutten, which is this ski resort for mainly old people, but there are a few young people. It's like a huge ski resort. We went there in the spring when there was really no snow and we weren't gonna ski. We were just gonna hang out. So we rented this giant ski lodge. Me and like, it's like 15 or 16 of my friends. And I had a pretty diverse group of friends as far as races go. It's like a African-American pair of twins, Middle Eastern, Asian, white. And it was about half boys, half girls, believe it or not. So we're pretty diverse. We're all huge nerds. I gotta take out this armband. I think I'm gonna uncurse the armor ward. Ugh, didn't last very long. You're imagining in your head, I know, like 17, 18-year-olds, almost 20 of them, all in a ski lodge on their own for an entire week on spring break. Oh, the crazy drugs and alcohol and orgies that are gonna happen. No, my friend, no. We did have a good time, but we played basketball. We went to Red Lobster. We listened to like the Go-Go's and 80s music. There was one of my friends and his girlfriend there. Maybe they hooked up. I don't know. They probably did. I wasn't paying attention. But it was like it was the tamest spring break outing of all time. And it was actually pretty fun. And it got my mind off of college applications and stressing out about whether I'm going to get into Berkeley or not. Because Berkeley, remember, it was my safety school. So the only school I have left after getting rejected for MIT is Berkeley. I'm just hoping I make it in. And I find out just before this vacation that I've been selected for this scholarship to Berkeley where they'll pay all of your financial needs. So it's like a full scholarship. So that's super cool, right? No, because at the end they say, this scholarship is contingent on you being accepted to Berkeley. Oh, wow. That was fast. So I'm already at the point where I can hoard a few Death Angel meats. That's good. Contingent on you getting accepted to Berkeley, and I think it was at the time only 8%. It might have been smaller than that, but maybe it was like 5 to 8% of the students at Berkeley were out of state. So most of the people accepted to Berkeley, because it is a state school, a public school, University of California, Berkeley, live in California. They're residents of California, and I lived in Maryland. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get accepted to the school. Wouldn't it be horrible if I got a scholarship and then they rejected me? And I already had like rejection on the mind because I hadn't gotten into my other choice. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to get a scholarship to a school that I wasn't accepted to, and then I'm not going to be able to go. I'm going to have to go to like a trade school, which is all right, but it wasn't exactly my plan. My parents are going to kill me. So that was where my thoughts leading up to this vacation. And I relaxed on vacation, and we had a good time. And I actually asked a different girl, not the Taiwanese girl, out to prom because we had such a good time when we were hanging out in Massanutten. She was the star of the girls' golf team, and she wasn't like a snooty tooty super rich like the stereotype of the golf player. She was like really authentic. She worked at the mall at I think it's called Auntie Annie's pretzel shop. It was a pretzel shop. Whenever I went to the mall, she'd give me a free pretzel, and she was a super laid back, cool, authentic girl. She was smart but kind of goofy. And she was amazing. Anyway, we went out to prom and we had a good time together. And it's the beginning of me getting over this other girl who kept turning me down. So I met her on this vacation. And also on this vacation, my dad left a message when I wasn't there that there was good news from California. And I knew that meant that I had been accepted. I was going to go to Berkeley. I was going to go to California. I'd never been to California before. It was like the coolest moment ever. I was so happy and relaxed. And it was just... that was probably one of the best vacations I've ever had. And nothing crazy happened. No drugs, no sex even. And it was just super chill. All my friends were there. I really enjoyed that vacation. And I got some good news that I wasn't going to be not going to any four-year college. So if you're listening to this and you're a kid, apply to more than 2 colleges, please. I know it's kind of annoying, but just do it. Don't be a moron like Doofy do and stress yourself out needlessly. Because it turns out, guess what? That hot girl did not go to Berkeley. She went to the University of Maryland, and almost everyone else at that party, all of my friends also went to the University of Maryland. Because it was cheap and it's a good school. And they were residents of Maryland. So I was the only person from my entire high school to go to Berkeley. Not the only person to get accepted, but the only person to decide to actually go. And again, as an explorer, it was super exciting. I was stoked. I mean, I'm going on the other side of the country. I've never been to the West Coast. I'm gonna be the only one there. I think I'm just gonna go around with minotaurs running around. I'm gonna be a rice ball. I think it's time for some bunny on bull action. Fluffy bunny time. I can out-heal this guy's damage, I think, once he does critical hits. 29, I don't know. If he did nothing but critical hits, it might be a little dangerous. But he's gone. Ooh. Death Angel in the wall. Let's see, if another one shows up, I won't be able to out-heal it. If I could make it up to that corner, I think I'll be alright. Let's see here. Don't have a pickaxe. Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I'm just gonna hide for a little bit, get my HP back. If I could have made it up to the corner, but, ooh, back again. If there was another Death Angel that showed up, that would be bad. Alright. I need to get into a room, and then I'll be able to actually get the meat. It's weird how confused the undead are by a giant jar. Alright, now we're here, and then I'll be able to get some more meat. So, yeah, I thought it was going to be super cool, and it was super cool. The Bay Area turned out to be my favorite area of the US. And now that Oakland's getting kind of gentrified and San Francisco is full of millionaires, it's not quite as interesting as it used to be, but it's still a cool place. I mean, the weather is amazing, the city's cool, there's a lot of cultural events that are pretty awesome. So, maybe later on I'll move there, but right now, I kind of have to finish out my career on the other side of the country. Washington, D.C. is pretty cool too, but it's not quite the Bay Area. And in college, I finally had the confidence to figure out who I was. I guess that's a standard story, but yeah, in high school, I was very social for the first time ever in high school. I had a lot of friends, but I didn't really have my own identity that much. I mean, there were a few things that I liked, but I don't know, I didn't have my own individual agency so much. I was just kind of going along with what all my friends wanted to do. And in college, I really found out the things that I like to do personally. And I'm not going to go into my college life this episode that much, but getting back to gaming, in college, the Nintendo 64 came out and I pre-ordered it just on a whim. I wasn't super into gaming anymore, although I did go to the college arcade a lot. But console gaming, I was just like, alright, sure, I'll pre-order a Nintendo 64. And I walked, I didn't have a car. I took the BART across the bay over to San Francisco, and then I walked up Geary to this Toys R Us that's at the top of a hill. And it has the best view of any Toys R Us I've ever seen. Like, it's at the top of a hill overlooking the city of San Francisco. I don't know if it's still there, but it's very scenic. I mean, I would sometimes go to that Toys R Us. It's kind of, if you go towards Japantown, you just keep going down Geary. I don't know if any of you have been to San Francisco, but it's definitely my favorite Toys R Us. And there's a Subway there. It's like a strip mall. It's not even that fancy. It's like a really ordinary strip mall. But as far as location goes, it was amazing. I'm sure they've torn it down and built some condos there by now. There's no way they let that location stay. If they have, that would be amazing. Because it's like, it's just sort of this mundane Subway. And you look out of the window over the parking garage and you have this amazing view of the bay in San Francisco. So I went there. That's where I picked up my my Nintendo 64. Put in a duffel sack, and I don't know, you probably don't know this, but when the Super Nintendo, or keep calling it Super Nintendo, when the Nintendo 64 came out, it was in very short supply. So everyone was looking for one, and I had one in my bag, and no one else could find one. So I didn't sell it, because I wasn't really using the internet much even then. I would just go to the computer lab at school. I didn't have a computer, by the way. A lot of people had a computer at school, but not me. I just went to the computer lab to type up papers, and that was the only time I ever used the computer or the internet. I don't even think I used the internet, other than for email, I think. I would send emails to some of my friends every once in a while. Even that. Yeah, that's weird. It's weird to think about that, but I didn't use the internet. I only used word processing on a computer. Bizarre. Alright, I'm trying to use my boo-boo staffs from the top down, so this should work, because it's at the bottom. Oh, thank goodness. Alright, oh, I know what I use my computer for. Back in the day, in order to watch anime that hadn't been released in the US, which was most anime, by the way. So I liked Rurouni Kenshin, was the only boys anime, what's the word? Shonen. It was the only shonen series I really got into was Kenshin. And I think I also watched Gundam Wing. And I watched Maison Ikkoku. The only way to get anime to watch were fan subbers. There are these groups of fans that would subtitle Japanese laserdiscs on a computer. And laserdiscs look kind of like a giant record-sized CD. They were very expensive to import from Japan. They're like $100 for one laserdisc. They usually had 2 episodes of a show on it. So that's like $50 an episode. They had to buy these, use a computer to very slowly subtitle them. So they had to have someone who knew knew Japanese and Japanese culture well in the club. And then they would, and these are all non-profit groups, by the way. They would do it just because they loved the show and they wanted more people to see it. They were just hardcore fans. They would subtitle these episodes, then they would transfer them to a VHS tape. So you had to use a VCR and give it. Oh, all right. Let me make sure I don't die here. What kind of meat? I guess I could try a boo-boo staff. It probably won't kill me next turn, right? Fluffy Bunny would get me out of this. Evil General would also save me. Restorative Herb is the guaranteed fix. I gotta use it. Gotta do the guaranteed fix. Alright. Why does he... Ugh. Finally. Oh, yeah, he would have killed me. Oh, I'm glad I used the Restorative Herb. Got too caught up in my story. I wasn't paying attention. What was I talking about? Oh, fan subbers. So yeah, you would have to mail them blank VHS tapes, and they would copy their subtitled master laserdisc onto the VHS tape, which was a very lengthy process, and then they'd mail it back to you. And they had to go through like hundreds and hundreds of these, so this was like a full-time job of them sending you these tapes. So that's what I use the internet for. I use the internet to find fan subber groups and watch Japanese shows that weren't released in the US. So I had all of Rurouni Kenshin on VHS, I had all of Gundam Wing on VHS, I had all of Maison Ikkoku, which are like, I think there's like 96 episodes, or I believe there's 96 episodes. But Kenshin is even longer. The end of Kenshin goes off the rails and becomes filler, and it's nothing like the manga, and it's kind of horrible. But the beginning of Kenshin was alright, so that's what I use the internet for. I use it for that. And maybe shopping online a little bit. I think I bought games. Oh yeah, I did, because I got that refund check for my scholarship. And I wasted it on online shopping for the most part. Alright, I'm gonna try to change a bunch of arrows so I don't have to worry about hunger this run. But all this other use the internet is put to now for social uses, no, it didn't exist. And I probably wouldn't have used it back then anyway, because I don't do it now. Why was I talking about that? I think I was talking about the Nintendo 64. So I didn't sell my Nintendo 64. I think I hooked it up to the TV in the break room. We had like a lounge in the dorm. one Thanksgiving break, so everyone in the entire dorm went home for Thanksgiving but me because it was so far and I wasn't going to fly across the country for like 2 or 3 days. So I'm by myself in this huge empty dorm, which I think is pretty cool. Again, I like exploring things by myself. Oh, I just realized I threw the wrong kind of meat. Nothing more embarrassing than throwing the wrong piece of meat at someone. Alright, let me get this meat back and I'll go find the right piece of meat. But yeah, on Thanksgiving break I beat Mario 64. I talk about enjoying a sense of liberation over empowerment. There were so many new verbs you could use in Mario 64. And it was really the first completely three-dimensional game. I don't know. It's hard to recreate that nowadays. You know, I suppose playing your first virtual reality game, maybe slightly a little bit like that. It's sort of like revolutionary jump in gaming. And I was really into fighting games, and there were no fighting games on Nintendo 64. So I liked Pilot Wings and Mario 64, but then I was like, what? I even got Mortal Kombat on Nintendo 64, and I was like, oh, this is crap. I don't enjoy this at all. So I think I returned that. And I had to get a system to play fighting games. And if you love 2D fighters in the Nintendo 64 generation, what system did you get? You got a Sega Saturn. So I'll probably talk about that later on in its own episode maybe, because that'll take a long time to talk about. But I owned a Sega Saturn, and I imported tons of Sega Saturn games, all the best 2D fighters, definitely Capcom, but even the ports of King of Fighters were okay on the Sega Saturn. Eventually I got a Neo Geo CD system to play SNK games because I was into King of Fighters. But yeah, I loved Mario 64. Then I played Zelda Ocarina of Time, and I beat it, and it was okay. Because it wasn't a huge jump up from Mario 64. It's just kind of like, alright, they're kind of taking verbs away from me. I had more freedom in Mario 64. Well, this guy does not want to give me... There we go. Let's say. I'm waiting for him to give me some rice balls, but all he wants to do is headbutt me. Come on! Just, oh. My goodness. He just did not want to rice ball that last arrow. Alright. Well, I'm all set for food now. I'm gonna increase my max fullness and be good to go. So yeah, I'm one of those weirdos that wasn't really blown away by Ocarina of Time. And the entire Nintendo 64 generation for me never got out of the shadow of Mario 64. I'm not saying that, Banjo-Kazooie and Conker and Jet Force Gemini and a lot of those games aren't objectively better than Mario 64. I'm just saying they're like an iteration of Mario 64. There was never a game where I was like, oh, this is totally new, this is completely different. I felt like I was playing slightly better versions of Mario 64 for almost the entire Nintendo 64 generation. And I didn't buy those games, I didn't play them that much. I beat Ocarina of Time in our suite lounge in the dorm. I think I borrowed it from someone. I think I borrowed Castlevania 64 too, and I beat that, which was fairly difficult, but again, wasn't that impressive. So, I thought Mario 64 was an amazing game. I liked the Nintendo 64. Oh, I played GoldenEye, of course. I played GoldenEye and Star Fox 64, so those were not Mario 64. Those were different. I really enjoyed those games. I did like the Nintendo 64 more than the Super Nintendo. And that's weird too, because there are only a few games that I really enjoyed on the Nintendo 64. But it was such a big jump up, you know, from the Super Nintendo. It's something completely different. So it didn't have as strong a library as the Super Nintendo, but as far as being new and different and more putting you in more control and being a new type of game, definitely was a huge jump. And then they followed the pattern again with the GameCube. The GameCube was like a slightly more powerful Nintendo 64, or much more powerful if you want to say that. Just like the Super Nintendo was a more powerful NES. And the GameCube has two of my favorite games of all time on it. It has Metroid Prime 2 and F-Zero GX. But other than those two games, I wasn't really into the GameCube that much. I played Pikmin. I thought Pikmin was pretty cool. It kind of... it made RTS games accessible to the general audience, and I thought it was cool that StarCraft 2 actually picked up some of the gameplay mechanics from Pikmin, like those destroyable walls and stuff. That's straight from Pikmin. So it kind of went back. Originally, Pikmin was based a little bit on games like StarCraft, and then StarCraft 2 borrowed some things from Pikmin. So I thought Pikmin was a cool game. I played Pikmin 2 obsessively, but I wasn't. Once I was done with it, I was done. It was like I wanted to complete it, but it wasn't. Again, it was just like a slightly better version of the previous game. So GameCube, not super impressive. So that was the pattern generally of my Nintendo gaming. There was a game or a system that was revolutionary, and it was totally different. I was like, wow, it's cool. I'm really into this, and I liked a few games from it. And then there was a system that was slightly better than the previous one, and I was like, yeah, it's got some good games, but it doesn't really blow me away. And that's happened again with the Wii and the Wii U, I think. I think the Wii, I remember by the time the Wii came out, I was an adult, I was a teacher. And I actually brought it into my physics classroom. We talked about the accelerometer and some of the physics of the Wii remote and the limitations of it. But all of the kids were super stoked, even the ones that weren't into gaming were into the Wii. And all of my family, my mother-in-law, even my wife. There's a twist to the story that I'll probably get into later. But I'm married at that point. And yeah, everyone was into it, and it was something completely new. And I realized that the games weren't as deep as more traditional video games for people who had been gaming a long time. But the idea of it was appealing to me. The idea that, hey, you know, we're going to take gaming, we're going to make it accessible to everyone. And we're going to... It's extremely complicated now. Like, look at a modern controller. Look at all the buttons on it. It's crazy. Like, no one's going to just randomly pick that thing up and know how to use it. We're going to make it so that anyone can just pick up a controller and start playing a game. That was a revolutionary idea, and I appreciated it. Even though, of course, the Wii turned out not to have a lot of amazing games on it. Then the Wii U came out, and the Wii U still going, and I guess the Breath of the Wild is going to be the last hurrah for the Wii U. I think I'm going to save this shot for the end of the floor. But yeah, the Wii U had a lot of potential, but it went largely untapped. And it's just kind of like the Wii, but slightly better. You know, it doesn't really excite me that much. Although I am excited for Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild is going to go back to that feeling I had with the original Zelda. That feeling of I can go wherever I want. Everything in the world gives you a sense of liberation. Like, you can go there. If it's in the world, you can interact with it. It's not like a pretty hallway. Back in the GameCube generation, a lot of people loved Resident Evil 4. The first level suggests that maybe there's going to be a lot of exploration, a lot of freedom. But after that first level, it's just pretty hallways. And sure, it's a pretty game. Sure, it's well made. The graphics were great for the time. It's even exciting. But from an explorer's standpoint, Resident Evil 4 is a huge step back. And it was the beginning of the worst period in that series, in my opinion. So I wasn't an enormous fan of Resident Evil 4, even though I respected it as a game. And I feel the same way about, what's the one after? Skyward Sword. I played Skyward Sword, and immediately, the day after I beat it, I put it up for sale on eBay. Because I'm like, I will never want to play this game again. This is the death of Zelda. Zelda has become like every other JRPG, just a bunch of pretty hallways and fetch quests. And that's not why I play Zelda. Zelda used to be about exploration. You know, when I played the first Legend of Zelda, one of my favorite games, just like, here's a sword, here's a huge world, just go do stuff. We're not going to tell you what to do. You just have to figure it out on your own. You can do it in any order you want. For a little while, when they talked about Breath of the Wild and having all those, they're not temples, but I don't know what they're called. Those little shrines. They talked about having over 100 shrines, which are like little mini dungeons. I thought just for a second, like, wouldn't it be cool if they went full Mario Maker and you could edit your own shrine and it would like randomly show up in someone else's Zelda world? You know, maybe the location is fixed, but the actual shrine is something someone else made. There's like an potentially infinite number of shrines. That would have been awesome, but I wasn't really expecting it. They didn't do it, but it's still cool. And I am tempted to play Breath of the Wild. I'll see how it is. But I'm tempted to play it like a roguelike. Like, just one life, and if I die, I have to start the whole game over. I know that sounds crazy to someone who likes Zelda, but as a fan of roguelikes, it's kind of tempting to do that. Because it seems like it would be possible to... Most Zelda games are pretty easy. I think if you were careful, you could avoid dying, you know? And it gives a real sense of danger to your exploration if you know, like, I'm going to start this whole game over if I die. So I don't know if I'm going to go all the way to that extreme, but at the very least, it's much, much more like a roguelike now. And I really love that they went back to their roots for this new Zelda, because I was seriously just going to quit. I was like, Zelda is dead. There's no more exploration. Sure, you're wandering around and looking for things, but it's very limited. Like, there is a certain place you are supposed to go next, and the game is telling you where that place is. You know, what is the fun in that? Where is the exploration? This is the item you use in this situation to solve this puzzle. This is the one solution. You know, it's just not as exciting or liberating. It doesn't give you as many verbs, and all those things I talk about, the reasons people play games, almost all of those are back in Breath of the Wild, except maybe socialization, social reasons. But again, I'm not a big social person anyway. So I am actually excited for the first time in a long time about that game. About a Zelda game, I mean. I haven't been excited about Zelda for a while. I've been excited about other games. But this series, I hopefully will get really reinvigorated by this entry. Alright, in case you're wondering what's going on in this shop, I'm trying to get all my most expensive items and put them on the ground so I can get them into jars. Because I think I'm going to sell them some stuff, get some money, steal it all back, and then use my meat to escape. Kinda risky because money is not really super useful in this dungeon as compared to meat. But I don't know, it'll be a fun way to wrap up this episode. I'm getting over an hour here, wow. But yeah, this is a great time in gaming to be an explorer, or to love exploration. We've got Shiren 5+ releasing today. No Man's Sky is coming out in August. That looks like an explorer's wet dream. The only thing I'm worried about is, remember I talk about in Control, you need a way to interact with the environment. If you have all these cool worlds, but you don't have a lot of verbs, a lot of ways to interact with what you're exploring, the exploration is not quite as fun. It does seem like there will be a slight bit of danger too, so that's good. And I don't know about meaningful rewards that affect the gameplay. Achievers, they'll just explore just to run up some abstract number on their profile. But as an explorer, I really would like to discover something that affects my ability to explore and interact with the environment in the future. And I don't know if they're incorporating that into the game. But I am super excited for it. I mean, it's going to be a pretty cool game. I don't have a PS4, but, you know, I have plenty of friends that do, and I'm excited to learn just how good the exploration is or isn't in No Man's Sky. And we also have Breath of the Wild. So those are 3 really explorer-oriented games that are all coming out in the near future. And I think it's only going to get better as VR and AR become more and more popular. Even Pokemon Go, which I am not interested in at all, and I've never really been into a Pokemon game, but it encourages exploration of your environment, so I think that's pretty cool. Alright, let's see here. Okay, I originally was going to put all my best items in specific jars and arrange it really nicely, but I am over an hour, so I'm just going to put as many jars on the ground as possible and just get as much money as I can quickly before I escape from here. The stairs again are in the next room, so close enough. I could use my soldier ant meat and extend this room over to the room with the stairs, but that's... the chance of me being able to do that with one piece of meat before some Death Angel or something comes in is almost 0. So I'll just use my wall flying meat and fly back to the stairs after I get a crap ton of money. think gaming is in a really cool place right now and we're headed in the right direction. That wasn't always the case. I thought we were kind of stuck in an iterative loop there for a while. But if the pattern continues, then after the Wii U, the NX will be something genuinely revolutionary. And I'm excited to see what their little gimmick or the differences in that system too. I don't know what it's going to be, but who knows? Maybe this will break the pattern. I hope not though. I hope it's something that no one has ever really thought a lot about. Oh yeah, look at that, 36,000. I can afford a Model 3 Tesla in cash now. I'll go ahead and grab everything and then skedaddle with my stolen goods. So that covers the second group of people watching this episode, the ones that are coming from my life story. I'll continue that next episode this run. There's a third group of people though. You could just be watching the episodes in order, in which case the last episode you watched, 129, I think I was just talking about how so many horrible things were happening. Well, we finally made it. Finally made it a week without having a mass shooting, although there was a mass stabbing in Japan, but still, that's probably a step up, I guess, but well done, humanity. Considering how many billions of people are on the planet, it's probably, I think it's kind of amazing that more people don't go completely nuts and do horrible things, although I know that's probably not a good thing to say, but it is kind of amazing the way we all, I mean, we don't get along perfectly, but considering how many crazy people there could be among billions and billions, it's nice that there are only a few who actually do terrible things. So it's the glass half full view of mass shootings. Not expressed very often. Anyway, that group of people watching the episodes in order, probably waiting to hear me talk about the museum shop, which I keep talking about. I keep hyping, but I never actually get to. Unfortunately, I am already over an hour, so I don't think I'm gonna have time to really get into it this episode, because as soon as I steal all this stuff, I am going to quit and save for another day. But next episode in the regular run, I will go into a little bit more detail about the museum shop, which is a new sort of mini game I'm going to have in this real-time remake of Shiren the Wanderer. Right now, though, you're probably playing Shiren 5 Plus on your Vita. Oh, by the way, I don't own a Vita because I know I won't have the willpower to wait until November. So I have 2 copies of the game, but I don't have a Vita. I don't have any way to play them because I wouldn't be able to resist. So don't tell me in the comments how awesome Shiren the Wanderer and the Tower of Fortune and Dice of Fate is. You can if you want to, but it's just torturing me because I can't play it until my gaming orgy in November. It's gonna be fun though to finally play that. Alright. Time. Take my chances. Become a fugitive from justice. Alright. Oh, 74. If I had walked out and there were 2 dogs waiting there, I could have just died. Oh, the sheriff. Alright, I don't like it because the stairs are in the middle of the room. Alright, sweet. Whew. Thank goodness. Go ahead and get some HP back. Oh, that was a little risky too. Yeah, it's time to quit. I'm doing stupid things. I'll go ahead and, I don't know, this is a little dangerous. I think future Doofy will get mad at me. Go ahead and try to boofoo this Skull Wraith. Alright, nice, safe situation for future Doofy to encounter. Hopefully it won't be another 2 years before I continue this run. Oh, that would be hilarious. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and save right now. Sorry, I went a little over an hour this episode. Next episode, I will finally finish Phase Final Puzzle. A little late, but better late than never. So, I'll see you all then at the end of that Phase Final Puzzle run in Shiren the Wanderer. Goodbye. Meet a nostalgic logorrhea. These are the wanderings of Doofy Doo. His monthly mission: to explore strange new floors, to seek out new loot, and rationalizations. To slowly go where many, many gamers have gone before.
Give me your lunch money, you tiny D-pad.